Just stick with trust in this one. Which quarterback, CC, do you trust more in tonight's Thursday Night Football matchup on Fox, mind you? Carson Wentz or Eli Manning?
It's good. I trust that guy with the shadow that was over the Aladdin logo and everything. But Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz he's my quarterback. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's a big play waiting to happen. His leadership skills. Now, I know the Eagles went to the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, but they are not a better football team than they are right now. He just doesn't have the support of guys playing around them. Major trust factor, I trust Aladdin. I trust Carson Wentz.
This is the easiest question we'll be asked all day. The answer is Carson Wentz. Eli's Walter Payton Man of the Year, 2 Super Bowls, all the respect in the world, Eli. But in 2018, I think I might have trusted Carson Wentz during his ACL rehab more than I trust Eli Manning at this moment. So, no, Carson Wentz.
If we were getting ready for a playoff game, we'd been like, which one of these guys you trust more? Oh, okay, now. Hey.
Did that change?
Then you'd have a conversation because Carson Wentz, you ain't seen him. All right? Then you'd be like, hey, Eli, the bandwagon for Eli. If you get him to the playoffs, Eli's a different guy.
If he gets to the playoffs, that's a fair point. Oh, in week 6, Carson Wentz.
1 and 4, Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
Rainstorm, tornado, hurricane.
Don't miss a first look at Disney's new movie, Aladdin, tonight on Fox. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. Patriots cornerback Stephon Gilmore finally gave Jalen Ramsey a little dose of his own medicine. Ramsey had a lot to say before the season started. Yesterday, Gilmore said of Ramsey, a lot of guys that talk are mostly zone guys, so they got a lot of energy to do that. It's actually quite clever. See, any truth to this?
Well, Stephon Gilmore's a guy that does not talk an awful lot. Really quiet guy. I got a chance to meet him. We trained him for the combine. He works out down in South Florida. So he's playing tremendous football. Didn't necessarily do that when he came over initially from Buffalo, but he can be a shutdown corner. The reason why the Pats are so successful now is because of their secondary. Some of these guys do play zone. Jalen Ramsey, he plays zone and man. Jalen can talk. Just don't talk too much. So I'm with Jalen talking. All right, because he's a really good player, and it's a nice little swag and everything. Not the article for GQ, but he's zone and a very good man coverage guy.
Listen, people are going to clap back at Jalen, and that's fine, but there's not much to criticize about his play. This isn't a situation with, like, our friend Josh Norman, where you could say, credibly, is it scheme?
Yeah.
Is it even
this would have been a great argument for Josh Norman.
For Josh Norman. Is it scheme? It could have been an argument against Richard Sherman at one point in time. How much of that is scheme? Jalen Ramsey, any scheme, any system, he's like Patrick Peterson. He's going to be an elite corner no matter where you put him.
He knows the difference between sick and sit 'em. That's important when you're a football player. You guys, I'll explain it later.
To the NBA now, where earlier this week James Harden did this, and officials did not call it traveling. Folks were fired up, so much so that the official NBA Twitter account had to confirm that this was indeed a legal play. Nick, what'd you make of the play?
This is part of what makes James Harden a basketball genius, and to me, one of the most creative players ever. Every year he comes back with something
word choice, creative.
Every year, some guys are in the lab, he's in the rule book, and he's like, okay, what are the official rules?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can I exploit them? And you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with that. He's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't jump the highest. He's not the most explosive. Yet he's won scoring titles. He's won an MVP. Maybe should have won a couple MVPs because he figures things out. He is crafty. I have all the respect in the world for him on this.
Same way New England does. Same way Tom Brady does. You tap Tom Brady on his head, it's hey, ref, hey, that guy touched me. You can't do that anymore. Take advantage of the rules, be a student of the game, and people don't give him credit for how creative he is. Great word choice there. Also, every once in a while, I used to catch a ball, and the ref be like, that wasn't a catch. I'm like, you ain't seen that before. He's like, no. That was right. That was the problem with that one, Jenna. We had never seen it
That's
before.
All right. Lonzo Ball made his debut alongside LeBron last night as the Lakers took on Golden State. LeBron had 15 points. Lonzo chipped in 7 coming off the bench. See, you watched this. What was your biggest takeaway seeing these two together?
I like Lonzo. I'm glad to see him back into the lineup. But the one thing he's got to do is you watch him. He's got to play better without the ball. They have Ingram. He plays with the ball. He's ball dominant. LeBron is ball dominant. Lonzo, is ball dominant. So how do they able to get all these guys into the flow? Those other guys got to play better without the ball. That's what's going to be. You can see, though, the extra 15 pounds on his shoulders, a lot bigger, a lot stronger than his rookie year.
I understand he opened the game with an air ball, but his first game back, he actually, I thought, played well in limited minutes. And there is going to be, early in the season with the Lakers, I imagine a lot of plays where Lonzo or LeBron try to throw a pass that could lead to an assist, and it goes into the first row. Jack Nicholson catches it because they're not all exactly in sync. But these are two pass-first guys with super high basketball IQs. It's going to work.
I'm glad you warned Jack, because Jack be lit at them games.
Yeah.
He ain't ready to be reactive to that. Hey, Jack be lit.
Jay-Z might have to help him out there.
Jack be nimble, Jack be lit. Oh, Jack Nicholson better be quick. Oh, Jay
On the fly.
with salt and pepper. Finally, to two of LeBron's
I saw Pepper lately. She changed her skin color. She looks like she's salt. That's another story, though. Wow. Yes, sir. Wow.
Coming in hot. Checked it out. Didn't know it was going to make the show.
All right. Finally, to two of LeBron's former teammates, both Kevin Love and Kyrie admitted playing with LeBron was sometimes a struggle. Love said there were dark times when he was teamed up with LeBron, while Kyrie said leaving LeBron was the best thing he ever did. CC, what was your reaction to these comments?
Yeah, just real quick, he said leaving the Cavs was the best thing he ever did, right?
He said leaving the Cavs.
Leaving the Cavs. I just want to make... LeBron's on the Cavs. I get it.
You implied that when he was leaving, wasn't anyone else on that team except really LeBron.
Okay, to me, just the quote is a little more... If he said leaving LeBron is the best thing I ever did...
He didn't say... He would catch a lot of heat for that. There's no drastic difference between the two. And, you know, Kyrie, we're looking, you know, in our rearview mirror. LeBron's gone to L.A. Of course it was a great decision. Now, if LeBron had still been there, if they had to go through LeBron, imagine if Kyrie was on the court last year when Boston lost to Cleveland. You think he'd be sitting there saying, oh, man, great decision I made? No, it wouldn't be a great decision. But now with LeBron being gone, and we have to give Kyrie, and sometimes we don't do it. Now, I'm learning when people are different. Like, I'm doing a show with a guy that's really weird, strange, odd, peculiar, all those things.
Understood.
In the word club. That's in there, Nick, as a definition. So I got to get used to kind of accepting kind of in a different... Kyrie's a different guy. He's a hell of a basketball player, but he's a different type of person. All the great players are hard to play with. What do they say about Russ? What do they say about Harden? What do they say about KD? KD left Russ. So anytime you're a great player, that we were having the office discussion, people say that about Michael Jordan. Accomplished people are not the most easy to deal with because of their standards on a daily basis.
Bingo.
And why should it be so different?
And, all right, so a number of things here. And first of all, for the final time, I'm not in a word club. However, that's not the point here. Let's discuss this. Kyrie wanted to be the man. Kyrie was not happy, reportedly, when LeBron went back to Cleveland. Kyrie re-signed in Cleveland.
How many games did they win, Nick?
Oh, gosh, I think it was 26. They were never sniffed the playoffs.
And Kyrie was happy.
Kyrie wanted to be the man, and he won a title and still wasn't fully satiated as far as what he wants basketball-wise. So he's a different type of cat, and I do not begrudge him that at all. Kevin Love talked about the positives of playing with LeBron and the negatives. And he was incredible. You writing satiated down right now? That ain't how it's spelled.
Oh, I know. It's word. Dusty's got me working on this weirdo.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
$5 for my monthly membership.
Kevin Love talked about the positives and the negatives. It is incredibly stressful. It is. You are going to be. Man, the basketball world didn't know Jordan Clarkson was terrible. Like, only the real basketball diehards knew how bad Jordan Clarkson was when he was in Los Angeles. Come play with LeBron. Playing some playoff games, some finals games, and now everybody knows. It's not for everybody. And so you're poking fun at me. It's not always easy to work on TV with a Hall of Famer. Standards, doing it for 15 years, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Like, you gotta, there's scrutiny, there's more people looking at you, you have to raise your game. Like, I love it. I totally understand some people wouldn't. Some people say, man, like, life's good in other places, and there's less expectations other places. Some guys are made for Phoenix. That's why Phoenix is there. Like, you know what I mean? I can go get my money. I can get my points. And so and by the way, that's not a judgment on those players. I don't think Kyrie's one of those guys. I think Kyrie's a guy that is made for all of it. Kyrie just wants it to be, he wants to be the starring actor in his own movie. And I don't blame him for that. But people, I think, are drawing the conclusion of, oh, Paul George didn't go there. Jimmy Butler's not on his list. Is this about LeBron? Partially, I'm sure. There's, for some guys, LeBron is the best player in the league to play with. And for some guys, he's not. Like, you either don't want the pressure or you want the credit. Because we know this. Right now, if LeBron's teams are good, he's going to get the credit. And he's going to deserve it.
And there's a difference with, look at the superstars that LeBron has played with. And that being Shaq, D. Wade, Ray Allen. And all these guys, man, they swear by LeBron. Look at the other players. Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. They swear by LeBron, but it's not the best. It's not where they can live their best life. It's not the situation where they're going to thrive.
Bosh as well. Bosh put him in that group.
Absolutely. Chris Bosh, man, he sacrificed so much, but Chris Bosh wouldn't be a champion without LeBron. So would he trade that to not have LeBron there? No. When you have people that have accomplished a lot, or people that have tremendous giftings, there's tremendous expectations. It's one of the college coaches, he was recruiting a kid who I knew and everything, and he said that sitting down at the kid's table, it offered him a scholarship, and the parents had two professional parents, and he said, you know something, I like coming to kids' homes that their parents are both accomplished people, because the standard at the dinner table is totally different than someone who grows up in a single-parent home. He said, there's nothing, I have a lot of single-parent homes. He said, but when they sit down to dinner, and their parents have been successful, what they expect from the kids is totally different. And that's what you have when you sit down and you're on the team with LeBron James. The expectations, they're out the roof.
All right, let's talk some more basketball. Who knew preseason B-ball could be so entertaining? Jimmy Butler did.
Whatever. And by the way, giftings, not in the word club. Go ahead.
Jimmy Butler did. Quite an interesting day for the All-Star. Butler reportedly took yesterday's practice as an opportunity to target his coach, Tom Thibodeau, and teammates Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. At one point, screaming at his general manager, "You bleeping need me. You can't win without me." He then spoke to Rachel Nichols, who was conveniently in Minnesota on the same day.
All my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No. But I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me. Me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're going to get inside the lines. I think that I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another. If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not going to take it offense. It's not personal. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you're probably right. I would have said, I ain't hooped in I don't know how long. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I love the game, and I love to win. And that's all I was out there doing, was competing.
All right, what'd you think about all this, Nick?
All right, so this is one of the, I think, coolest stories in recent NBA off seasons because it was premeditated and it involved such a high degree of difficulty. And here's what I mean. Jimmy Butler's folks called Rachel Nichols the night before last and said, come to Minneapolis, he's ready to talk. And Jimmy Butler then decided, I'm going to have this big interview coming, I'm going to show up to practice. All that's premeditated, right? But then he has to go execute what he executed at practice, which was reportedly show up to practice late, grab 4 third-string guys, and say, it's me and these 4 guys against Big Cat, against Wiggs, against any of the other starters. Let's see who's got it. And he never lost the game. And that's what added to the interview with Rachel Nichols. That's what added to him being able to say, you bleeping need me, you can't win without me. His entire issue with the Minnesota Timberwolves is not Tibbs, it's not the role players, it's that he said in the interview, Karl Anthony Towns is the most talented player on the team. Andrew Wiggins is the most God-gifted player on the team. But who plays the hardest? Me. And he wanted to get that message out there. He wanted to remind everyone how good he is. But he had to go win those games at practice in the middle of that premeditation, and he did it. Now, I don't know if this helps him get traded, because I know Tom Thibodeau well enough to know Tom Thibodeau watched that and said, oh, my God, I've never loved you more, Jimmy Butler. Your competitive ferocity, how good you still are. But, I mean, this was all part of his PR campaign, if you will, to remind the world who he is. And I think it was, at least to this point, relatively successful.
Jenna, I wouldn't let him back in the gym. I wouldn't have him around the players. I'll move him immediately. I wouldn't have him because I made a choice. I made a choice that I'm going with Wiggins. I made a choice that I'm going with Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm getting ready to support him. And I'm not getting ready to let someone come into my basketball practice because I know people think it's sport, but, you know, it's a job. Could you imagine having someone like that in your office? Could you imagine, like, to make everyone else comfortable? So I don't laugh and stuff about it because somebody can get hurt. And there's a difference between, you couldn't have no football player out there doing that. You could have a basketball player because you couldn't have no football player challenge a guy like that because they would be fisticuffs. They out there talking. Jimmy was the only one serious. And Karl Anthony Towns is not that guy. Wiggins is not that guy. And if you care about them as a team and you're trying to be a playoff contender this year, you got to move Jimmy Butler. I wouldn't let him back in the building one more day. All right, I'll be on the phone all day. I would move him because you cannot have that type of environment at your job and think that people are going to get better. No one's going to get better. Did he prove a point? Yeah, he proved a point. But we got to get him out of here. We have chose we're going a different direction. He is no longer needed to be at the building. I'm going to support the players who I've made an investment in. You want to be moved, as Denny Green told me? Come to my office, and I'm getting ready to accommodate you. And that's what they should do with Jimmy Butler as soon as possible.
That was my take this morning, that this guy was now suddenly going to be, as talented as he is, and wherever his heart and his intentions are, a cancer in that locker room. Why do you want to be with someone who you know doesn't want to be there, will play on his time, when he wants to play, around the people he wants to play with? I just don't understand how you can set up a successful game plan or a successful season with a guy who doesn't want to be there.
I reject your premise that he's going to play on his time when he wants to be there. He said he's coming back to practice today.
No. We know Jimmy Butler. He's one of the hardest workers. This is the kind of guy, he made himself into a player. But you can't go into the season, so you're right about this. Like, they can't move forward with a guy acting like this. No. Because it does mess up the team.
But this is how, hold on. This is how Jimmy, I just talked to someone that was there yesterday. This is how Jimmy Butler practiced in Chicago. Like, he's always wolfing. He's always yelling. He's always trying to win every drill. And that, by the way, grates on some guys.
Let me tell you something. When you are the best player or you have the most experience, you know what you do to people like Cat and them? You don't tell them the whole truth. You don't tell them things are going to crush them. You don't tell them things that they're going to make their game worse. Like, you tell them things to try to build them up. Now, is there a fine line there? Yes. But Jimmy Butler was not trying to help these players get better. He's trying to take their spirit and crush them. And once it becomes to that, it is counterproductive. Competition is one thing. Combative, that's another thing. And that's what that was yesterday. That wasn't about competition. And that's the reason why none of the other players came up and said anything to him. Why? Because they knew it wasn't about basketball. It was about other things.
And so if this was how he was going to be at every practice moving forward, at every drill, if he was always just going to be trying to demean Big Cat and Wiggins, then maybe I would be on your guys' side of this. But I do want people to understand where Jimmy Butler's mindset is, where he was a year ago when he was super excited to be traded to Minnesota. A year ago. You know that GM survey we just did? Mm-hmm. You know who won which player you'd most want to start your franchise with? Not Anthony Davis, not Giannis, not LeBron, not Durant. Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns. Kentucky, #1 overall pick. Wiggins, Kansas, #1 overall pick. Jimmy Butler, junior college, Marquette, 30th pick. And he gets to Minnesota, and he sees both of these guys who were supposed to be like this. Karl kind of leveled off, and Wiggins dipped enormously. Now, some of that can fall on him. He's got the veteran leader. He needs to lift guys up. Some of it can fall on him. But if you're two guys on max contracts in this league, your own basketball destiny has to be your own prerogative. And so I think Jimmy Butler would like, if he's going to be on the team, those guys to be better. I think he wants what's best for them if he's going to be there. And him showing up to practice yesterday opens the door that he will be there. You said if it were football, but he knows it's not football. I agree with you. You can't do this in the NFL practice.
I was just giving the people an example of why these things happen at a basketball practice compared to football.
Right? But it's not. My point is, you say all the time, football, there's not a lot of tough guys in the NBA.
There's not.
Right. And
yesterday was a great example of it. Because who would let someone carry on like that? Like, who would allow a player like that to talk down to him, call him soft? Oh, you soft, and you softer. Like, who would do that? Who would take up that? No, basketball players would. And that's why in the NBA, they allow stuff like that to happen. If it happened in the NBA, somebody would have hit him in his mouth. Yeah.
Well, but it didn't. But it didn't.
It's obvious. Oh, they're very productive. I'm sure the Timberwolves are more valuable today than they were yesterday. Man, ship that dude out of there. Pack him.
Got to take a break. Coming up,
Find
Baker Mayfield lead the